when you mentioned that there's no guarantee with cabling, that just further worries me for the safety of our family and our children and other Atherton residents' children, so I'm sure will come to our house, we hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? No further comments. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Commissioners' comments, please. William, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I find the aesthetic comments to be normative. I think it's a gorgeous tree. I find the discovery of 5 failures so recent to this hearing somewhat suspect. Okay, and therefore I must treat it as suspect. And I will read to you from the town of Atherton's general plan. Trees shall be preserved to the maximum extent feasible, while allowing for construction within the established parameters for setbacks and lot coverage. The tree does not encroach on your building plan, and it does not at this point represent anything other than a nuisance to a design that the architect would like to achieve. Thank you.
Paul?
I have been the victim of a fallen tree on my property, so I understand the issues that you're talking about. In fact, it was a tree not similar of species, but similar of shape and size that fell on my property a couple of years ago. So I understand to what you're speaking. And I'm also impressed with the applicant's plan to replace that site. This has been, and looking at the property today, I've kind of gone over this quite a bit because I understand what William is addressing here, and I know how strict we are in regards to that. But having experienced my personal experience in a tree that was not known to have any problems except a really poor pruning job, which added to the risk of it falling. So combined with my personal experience and the plan to replace the trees, I'm leaning in favor of removal.
Thank you. Eric?
So I went on the property and I actually saw the property from the neighbor's backyard because they opened it up for me. I agree, it's a grand looking tree. So aesthetically it didn't bother me. But the safety aspect of it does bother me. And to the degree that our arborists agree on the status of the tree, then I'm looking at it from a couple of things. First of all, I've never had a tree fall, but at one time in my life I was an expert tree climber. And so I would never want to be one of those 5 kids up on a limb that didn't look like it was going to be okay to be on, and then it wasn't. And that tree is inviting being climbed, you know, and I'm glad I was on the other side of the fence. So I believe, you know, as a city, we're very protective of trees because we want the aesthetic, because we want the statement that it makes as the type of community we are, and we want to demonstrate a commitment to nature and preserving it. And that's exactly why I like living here. On the flip side of that, sometimes I think we get so committed to that we miss a point about the purpose of the tree, that we want to make sure it's not used improperly. And climbing that tree or having things fall off that tree or anything else of that tree would be things that I would not want to put us as a town or the owners at risk of. So I'm inclined to go ahead and approve the removal as long as it's replaced with a significant tree that makes the same type of natural statement in the area. I agree with you that it doesn't have any visibility to the area and things like that, but we have to worry about the precedence it sets for others, and that's where we're coming from. But I will tell you that any tree that our arborist said, hey, had some issues and maybe it's pretty okay, and the applicant's arborist said yes, it has some issues and we're concerned about it, I would be taking the same stand. So I don't think it would be inconsistent with where you'd find me on any property in the city, in the town. So that's my only comment.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I visited the site on Tuesday, and looked at the tree, and William was with me, and he looked at the tree and said, it's a great tree. I looked at the tree and said, oh, I don't know about that tree. And that's where I am. I think the tree is a nice tree, but it does have some certain safety issues. It stands all by itself. It's been excavated around the base of it quite a bit. I think the poor little thing doesn't have a lot of life left in it, and so I would vote for tree removal in this case. So, that being the case.
So the only question I would have then is, in terms of the motion, we have to have a finding that it
It's not.
was not inconsistent?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Looking for staff leadership on this one?
Not inconsistent with the general.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so I would move that we find that the removal of this tree is not inconsistent with the general plan, and that the tree be removed by a significant, or be replaced by a significant tree, reviewed by staff and
As approved by the town arborist.
as approved by the town arborist, with no cabling required. All right, yeah, that's it.
Eric has made a move to remove the tree. Is there a
I'll second the motion.
Paul seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1 no. The tree removal committee is approved 3-1. The applicant has 10 days for the neighbors to appeal the verdict of the decision of the planning commission. Thank you very much. The next item is variance at 110 Atherton Avenue. Variance to allow a detached garage to be located closer to the front property line and allowed by the Atherton Municipal Code. Staff report, please.
Okay, the next item before you is a request for a variance at 110 Atherton Avenue. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a detached garage be built closer than is allowed into the required front setback. The parcel is a flag lot setback from Atherton Avenue. Detached accessory buildings are required to be located a minimum of 30 feet behind the front line of the main residence or 120 feet from the front property line, whichever is less. Flag lots also have an ability to request a special structures permit to allow accessory buildings to be located at the front setback, in this case 60 feet from the front property line. However, the applicant would like the garage to be located 17 feet 10 inches from the property line and therefore would need a variance. The proposed garage will meet all other setback requirements. The applicant is asking for an exception to the front setback because placement of the garage in accordance with the zoning code would place the garage too close to the redwood trees on site, would cause several birch trees to be removed, and eliminate a desirable portion of the yard area. The applicant also notes that locating the garage where proposed would reduce impacts to the existing redwood trees, their root systems and drip lines, and would reduce the amount of paving required. The town arborist, Kevin Keelty, has visited the site and reviewed the proposed plans and can support the proposed location of the garage, as this allows for the existing landscaping to be retained and will reduce impacts to the surrounding heritage trees. In order to grant a variance, the Planning Commission will need to make 4 findings. Staff believes that 3 of the 4 findings, specifically 1, 2, and 4, cannot be met. The property is subject to the same setback requirements as other flag lots within the town. Further, the applicant has the ability to request a special structures permit to allow the garage to be located at the front setback, which is a privilege reserved only for flag lots. Staff finds that granting a variance would constitute the granting of a special privilege, and that approval of a variance would be contrary to the objectives of the zoning code. However, staff does believe finding 3 can be met, specifically location of the garage is set back from the right-of-way and will not have a significant impact on the neighbors. There are several other alternatives for the property, including locating the garage on another portion of the lot or keeping the existing garage and adding second floor square footage to add living space. In addition, there are no covered parking requirements within the town. Although the site has limitations with regards to the placement of the garage due to heritage trees and the existing yard, this is not a unique condition in town. Many properties must limit their design options depending on the location of existing heritage trees. If the commission wishes to approve the variance, it would need to make all 4 of the findings in the affirmative. The planning department to date has received 1 public comment email from the neighbor at 120 Atherton Avenue, and a copy of that was placed at your chairs. This is the neighbor to the left of the subject property. This neighbor has no concerns with the garage located at the proposed area. The applicant is present and staff is also available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Any questions, Andre?
I've got one. The one comment that you made in the presentation there was that no covered parking requirements. I had a speed bump on that. Just tell me what that would refer to.
Technically speaking, they're not required to have a garage. I know most residents want one,
Okay.
but there's not a parking requirement in town, so
Okay.
as an alternative, they could have no garage.
Okay. Got it.
We're one of the few communities that does not require parking.
Yeah, right.
All right. Good. Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand that properly.
Any further comments, questions for Andre? Thank you. If there are no more staff questions, I'll open the public hearing at 110 Atherton, 110 Atherton Avenue. Applicant here, please.
Yes, I'm Wayne Clapper with Clapper Construction, representing the owners. Excuse me, I'm on the tail end of a cold, so bear with me as I go through the points.
You might back up a little bit.
We fully understand that the lot in question as a parcel, as a whole, does not meet any unique requirements based upon requiring a variance. However, in taking into account the way the house was originally put on the property in 1972, the two subsequent additions to the house, and the extensive landscaping that the previous owner had performed to the structure, those were all of our concerns when we were looking at how we could enlarge the house without detrimentally putting a negative on the architecture of the house. The house will not lend itself to a second-story addition as it was spoke to because of the sloping roof lines and no ceilings in the house. So the modern architecture of this California rancher kind of speaks to itself, as well as the landscaping that surrounds it. So in analyzing the irregular or special needs or hardship associated with the location of the accessory structure for the garage, we took into account that number one, it was a flag lot. It had some unique qualities to it. Number two, the original front yard setback to this house was on a different side, which was precluded when they performed a small addition and reduced the setback by 11 feet. So therefore, the only 60-foot front setback at that point became the one that we're showing on the drawings itself. When we're in an effort to maintain the existing landscaping that the owners fell in love with when they purchased the house last August, we took into account minimal amount of asphalt paving for the driveway leading to where a garage could be located, where the garage could be located without detrimentally inhibiting any of the large redwood trees on the property. And we had the town arborist out, Kevin, when we were in the very initial early stages of this consideration, because we felt that that was a vital criteria to trying to locate where the garage should go. The extensive redwood trees in the area that they're presently located were taken into consideration when we positioned the garage where we have shown them on the drawings. As well as the ground coverage with solid paving or asphalting, because we would not require any too much more of the asphalting to get to the new garage. Whereas if we had taken the easier way out and positioned the new garage to the side so that it did not extend past the front of the existing house, we would have ran into several issues associated with the lot coverage, the additional asphalt paving or ground coverage with the paving. We would have gotten in the way of several of the redwood trees, their drip lines, and potential root systems. So that was our major consideration in picking the location that we did take into account. And on the final issue is, I was able to meet, as well as my son was able to meet with several of the commissioners when they came out to the property. I was only there for one of the meetings. And not a lot of emphasis seemed to be put on the fact that, we had these huge towering redwood trees with 48, 50-inch diameters. Tonight I listened to the importance of the trees themselves while people were talking to other trees. And I found that to be very much in line with the way we were thinking. The importance of the trees to perform the addition and locate the structure while taking into account the neighboring trees and how we could accommodate it. So that was very interesting. So that criteria that I just established that we took into account, I feel weighs heavily on the findings of number one. The lot, it's an acre, it's pretty much a square to a darn close rectangle, doesn't have any size characteristics that are abnormal, doesn't have any shape that's abnormal. However, in taking into account the items that are already on the lot, that's where the irregularity and the special need for the location of the garage has come into place. As far as finding number two, the only thing that I could comment there would be every variance has to be dealt with on the merits of that variance. So when you vote yes on one particular variance based upon its facts, that does not necessarily mean one opens the door to all subsequent variances as they roll down the line in the future. So I'm not sure how that, in granting this variance, would become an issue for future variances based upon their own particular requirements and criteria. Findings 3 and 4 are pretty straightforward. There's no detrimental impact to any of the neighbors, to the surroundings or anything along that lines as far as the ground, the structure itself and how it would be located on the property. I believe that's it. Do you have any questions? Or?
Yeah, Commissioners, any questions? Mr. Clapper?
Yeah, the only, we talked on the phone, I believe.
Pardon me?
I think we talked on the phone about the, I visited the site, and the question I had was, the garage is because of a need to expand the living area, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so it's not, so that was sort of something I uncovered in the discussion was that we're not ending up with a situation where there's a 6-car garage, it's a 3-car garage because of the expanded living area.
Yes.
So that brings, first of all, there's nothing about this application that makes it significantly a special case that I see anything that support it based on what you've said. The only thing I would say is that there are other options other than extending it by a full 3-car garage. There's a possibility of having one of the 3, the end of the 3 being one of the 3 that's left, and then 2 out the side, so it would be an extension of the 2-car garage and a little bit less living space, or coming up with a different living space. So we've got a couple things and issues. One, there's nothing about this application that makes it a special case for me. Second of all, is because I don't see an overall plan for what's really going to be going on in the site, it even makes less sense to me. So I just didn't hear anything in our conversation on the phone or tonight that would change my opinion, unless I'm missing something about the plan.
Well, as far as the locating of the additional habitable square footage with the house, we certainly could leave the existing garage and build on the outside of it. But that means then you're creating an island of the new habitable area away from the existing. So the importance of home flow and room orientations really come into play. The garage should always be on the perimeter of the structure,
Right, I got that.
accessing the structure.
Right.
And in an effort to do this in a way where it doesn't look like an addition, it doesn't, it feels as good when it's done as before you started it, that was our goal.
Okay,